afternoon. My name is Jade Fleury.
And my name is Heidi Coleman. We thank you for allowing us here today to come before you as social workers and as advocates for Indigenous children's rights, and to discuss Jordan's Principle. Jordan's Principle has been a positive step in the right direction towards ensuring that Indigenous children have access to the medical resources that they require.
It's a step towards equitable access to resources and the halting of jurisdictional disputes that cost Indigenous children their lives, like that of Jordan River Anderson. While we believe Jordan's Principle is a positive step towards reconciliation in our country, we feel that, like within any policy, there is room for improvement.
To begin, there is limited access to services under Jordan's Principle. In September 2016, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal ruled that Canada failed to properly implement Jordan's Principle, calling it unlawful and discriminatory, and has since issued 3 compliance orders. This is detrimental to Indigenous children who are in need. Although the policy exists, it does not do good for those who cannot access it or who have difficulty navigating through the multiple service agencies filling out paperwork to access this funding. Upon requesting services through Jordan's Principle, you are required to first find your regional contact them, and wait 12 to 48 hours to receive an evaluation and determination. Oftentimes, individuals are turned away, again proving limited access to services under Jordan's Principle. Jordan's Principle does not have its own funding, and behind the scenes we are still experiencing jurisdictional disputes as it seems no one wants to take responsibility for the funding of Indigenous children with extensive needs. Why is it that Indigenous children who are not receiving equitable care under this policy? This limited access to services under Jordan's Principle is detrimental to Indigenous children as they continue to experience neglect on behalf of the government.
The next issue we would like to discuss is the allocation of funding for Indigenous people, as it continues to be an ambiguous and oppressive practice on behalf of our Canadian and provincial governments. While Jordan's Principle's intent is to ensure access to services that other children in Canada have no issues accessing, we still see disturbances of financial dispute between different levels of government. So, is Jordan's Principle really meeting its intended purpose for Indigenous children? The federal government announced $382 million in funding to implement Jordan's Principle in 2013, but provided no details of the allocation of funding or how it would be specifically implemented to ensure the Child First policy. The $382 million provided was said to ensure that the government is positioned to meet the goal of immediately responding to the needs of First Nations children. However, the provincial governments are responsible for delivering health care and social services. So we must ask, where is this money going? Indigenous communities receive significantly less funding for medical and education. Is this money being put towards these services in Indigenous communities? The ambiguity of allocation of funding for Indigenous people is an issue because words without action mean nothing.
The issues we have advocated on behalf of today are ones that are critical to the well-being of Indigenous children. Please consider why there is limited access to services under Jordan's Principle and why to this day is allocation of funding for Indigenous people continuing to be an ambiguous process.
Changes to ongoing policies that continue to oppress Indigenous communities and children will not be quick to change, as we've seen throughout our history. However, before you today, we hope that your advocacy and careful consideration can make way to effective and impactful change. Thank you.